This Norwegian man should not have lost his leg. He only broke his ankle, but surgery led to infection. At night he suffers what's known as phantom pain.
Lem som egentlig ikke er der. Det jo helt forferdelig. Du kan sparke og du kan gjøre akkurat hva du vil for noe. Det hjelper ingenting.
Norwegian authorities said a doctor made serious surgical errors. They investigated and revoked his license in 2020. Despite that, reporters found the same doctor practicing in Germany. When a medical professional's found at serious fault, they can lose their license. OCCRP partnered with 50 other media outlets in Europe and beyond and found they don't necessarily lose their careers. They can easily move to another country and continue to practice. We've confirmed over 100 cases, and we'll tell you about 2 that affected Norway, Germany, Romania, and the UK.
Shocked, surprised, saddened to see that somebody could be so prolific in what they did in this country and still be able to practice in another country in the Western world, in Europe.
As a doctor in a hospital, you're supposed to kind of trust what they say.
That trust was abused for this British man whose identity we're protecting at his request.
So we went out to the quiz night, had a good night. As I was kind of walking home, I sort of like accidentally bumped them, but not really. They turned around and just shoved me into a barbed wire fence, and I sliced my hand open, my finger, and as I kind of fell down, my shoulder popped out as well. So that was dislocated.
John went to the Royal Cornwall Hospital in southwest England and encountered Dr. Julius Stan.
He kind of came through and said that he was going to be the one to give me the medication. And he asked if I'd ever had a suppository, to which I said no, I hadn't. I was a bit reluctant, and so I asked him, are there any other ways I could take it? And he said, I remember him saying exactly like, no, I have to do it this way. There are no other alternatives. So it sort of left me feeling wrong in more than one way, and I just kind of buried it after that, to be honest.
5 years later, John learned something had been wrong. The Regional Health Service sent him a letter.
It said, we've been going through our records. In August 2019, you were treated by Dr. Stan, and we have reason to believe that he performed a procedure for his own sexual pleasure or something along those lines. And then it said, we apologize, and that was it.
I think there were over 200 incidents of rectal administration of diclofenac recorded.
The victims launched a group legal case and received compensation in early 2026. A medical tribunal found Stan had subjected patients to unnecessary, invasive, and intimate procedures for his own sexual gratification. Licensing authorities struck him off the medical register.
Heinous abuse of trust by a doctor who sexually abused, assaulted young boys, young men, under the guise of medical treatment.
The UK notified Romania that it had revoked Stan's license. Despite that, he's working in his home country as a trauma and orthopedic specialist at a hospital in the city of Cluj-Napoca.
I was shocked, surprised, saddened to see that somebody could be so prolific in what they did in this country, sexually abused tens, hundreds potentially, of boys, young men, and still be able to practice in another country in the Western world, in Europe.
Alo, bună ziua, domnul Julius Stan. Ana Poinaru este numele meu, sunt reporter la Public Record în București.
In a phone call with a reporter, Stan defended his record.
Tot ce am făcut, consider că am făcut în înțelesul pacienților, când m-am priceput mai bine. Niciunul dintre ei nu m-a reclamat, dimpotrivă, a fost mulțumit și m-au felicitat.
The hospital in Cluj-Napoca declined to comment. The head of Romania's regional body that supervises doctors told us they will not take action.
N-avem ce investigații să facem, doamna. Doctorul Stan are drept de liberă practică în România. Și în România până acum s-a comportat absolut fără probleme.
The fact that someone who has negatively impacted so many lives with their behaviour has then been allowed to keep practicing and potentially harm more people is abhorrent.
So what would justice look like to you now?
For him to not be allowed to practice medicine regardless of where he is in the world.
The Health Secretary Wes Streeting has ordered an urgent review of vetting procedures for foreign qualified doctors.
A criminal investigation's ongoing. An EU spokesperson told us member states aren't required to read the alerts or follow up. Love the work we do and want to support us? Consider subscribing or become part of the movement. Join our Patreon. Links below the like button. Thomas Gilkul says he's been in pain every day since ankle surgery in November 2024.
Es ist wie wenn man ihn mit einem scharfen Messer immer wieder in Ihren Fuß reinfährt und aufschneidet. Und so fühlt sich das gerade an im Moment.
Dr. Yerlan Omarchanov performed the surgery. Gilkul suspected something had gone wrong and contacted his insurance company and a lawyer. In a letter to Gilkul's lawyer, Omarchanov claimed the operation went without complications. But according to an expert from the statutory health insurance company, the surgery was grossly negligent. So Thomas took interest in articles about other patients who alleged they'd endured negligent treatment. That's when he read about another patient in Norway and saw the name of his doctor.
Ich war froh, dass er es gesagt hat, genauso wie der Patient, der sich da gezeigt hat, Herr Olsen. Ja, schlimm, was ihm passiert ist, wirklich schlimm. Aber ich finde es sehr gut, dass er damit eben in die Öffentlichkeit geht.
This is the man he read about, Finn Arge Olsen. He was preparing to go out for dinner one evening in 2017, but first he decided to do some work on his roof.
For det var jo egentlig bare idioti. Det var, jeg skulle bare opp der. Og det der litt farlig med å si 'jeg skal bare'.
He fell and broke his ankle. He underwent procedures in hospital to fit plates and screws to hold the bones in place. But the screws came loose and Olsen developed pressure ulcers and suspected sepsis. Eventually his lower leg had to be amputated. He still takes medication for the pain.
Du våkner på natta i full krampe i et lem som egentlig ikke er der. Det er jo helt forferdelig. Du kan sparke og du kan gjøre akkurat hva du vil for noe. Det hjelper ingenting.
The Norwegian Health Authority found the amputation was the result of serious medical errors. After a review of Omarchanov's record with multiple patients, the authority revoked his license.
We considered that this medical malpractice would be dangerous for patients, and especially so because we considered that he didn't have a proper understanding of his limitations and his own competence.
Olsen and 57 other patients received compensation from the Norwegian Health Authority. Omarchanov lost his license in 2021. That same year, he began practicing in Germany.
Based on our knowledge to the case and our assessment, we fear that he can be a danger to patients wherever he decides to start his practice.
Norway warned health authorities across Europe about Omarchanov. They even contacted the German embassy because Omarchanov's a German citizen. Omarchanov didn't respond to a request for comment sent to his German medical practice. In Germany, each region governs medical licensing, and neither of those where he's worked took action. After reporting by our partners, German medical groups are calling for a national doctors' register.
Ich halte ein solches Register für schon ein ganz wichtiges Instrument, um genau solchen Entwicklungen, wie Sie sie aufgedeckt haben, entgegenzuwirken.
EU parliamentarians are now calling for a Europe-wide register too, which would record disciplinary measures against medical professionals.
Dette kommer jeg til å løfte med mine europeiske kollegaer, og jeg mener at vi både har et felles ansvar for, og vi må også, mener jeg, vurdere om vi bør ha et felles autorisasjonssystem i Europa for legene, for det ville kunne bidra til at disse feilene ikke skjer.
Omar Charnov and Stan are just two of the more than 100 doctors that OCCRP and partners confirmed are banned in one country but licensed in another, most of them still practicing. But the true scale of the problem is hidden by a lack of complete and comparable data. For more on that, I spoke with one of our researchers on this project, David Ilieski.
It took a huge effort from the team to collect the data through building scrapers, through filing FOIA requests, and to finding other ways of collecting the public data. And then after that, sorting it out, cleaning it out. Basically, we were working with different alphabets because a lot of the names were in Cyrillic and in Greek alphabet. So we needed to find a way how to clean this data, how to put it in our order for us to be able to do the research then and give it to the journalists in the countries on the ground. This was the initial step of the research and data. The second step was fact-checking and proving that these were really the names of the doctors. So basically, even when we got a same name appearing in more than 2 countries, we needed to prove that this was actually the same person. So this took another round of research trying to see whether these were the same people. This was one of the more technically and logistically hard projects that OCCRP has done in the recent years. Throughout the project, we saw that the biggest issue is the fact that there is lack of transparency. Some countries publish the data and have transparent systems where people can look up the names of the doctors who hold a license or who lost their license. Basically, when it comes to this, the UK is the only country that is basically publishing the reasons why a doctor got suspended. And then there is only a handful of countries that publish the names of the doctors that got revoked. The rest is a black hole. The European countries are not publishing the names of the doctors that lost the license. Even in cases where journalists filed FOIA requests, those requests were rejected due to privacy reasons, and some of the journalists are still appealing. So the biggest issue why these doctors managed to continue to practice, in my point of view, is the fact that there is lack of transparency and to a certain extent lack of exchange of information between countries, and that's why this problem goes unchecked, and we can say it's a systematic issue.
So, the devil is definitely in the detail and in the data. If you found this short film informative, please do subscribe.